Warning: the following podcast, which contains strong language and mature content, is unsuitable for children or for the faint of heart. The subject matter discussed will be frightening and graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Three spooked girls. Three spooked girls. When you want to hear about the paranormal, you get the spooked girls. True crime that makes you hypothermal. With the three spooked girls, stabby snippets will give you dreams. Tara and Jessica will make you scream along with the spooked girls. Bring on the slaughter, we on that haunted ground. Spooked girls. The three spooked
Hey Spooksters, and welcome back to another episode here on Three Spooked Girls. My name is Tara, and as always, I'm here with my cool friend Jessica.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are bringing you a recap of the new documentary, The Truth and Tragedy of Moriah Wilson. It is a fantastic documentary, and one I feel like will be a blueprint on how true crime documentaries should be done. It's very tragic, it's very heartbreaking, but it was very beautifully done in how they tribute Moriah Wilson. But that's all I will say for now, because before we get into that, we got to go into our business that we always do. So if you are new here, hello, welcome. Thank you for checking out the show. Returning Spooksters, welcome back. If you are not hanging out with us on social media, you can find us on all the places. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Our handle is at Three Spooked Girls. We also have our amazing Facebook group that we gush over each and every week because Jessica and I love it so much. That is Three Spooked Girls Official. Over there we do episode discussion threads. People post articles, memes, talk about movies, other documentaries, all kinds of stuff. It's so fun. So if you want to hang out with Spooksters and us, because Jess and I are very active over there, you can come join us over there. And if you are a reader, we do have a virtual book club called Spookster Literary Society. We meet at the last Sunday of the month. This month we are reading Sweet Bitter Song. It's a reimagining of is it Greek? Is that what it is?
I believe so.
Like the Odyssey type of thing? Yeah, like Greek Odyssey type of era. And it's very sapphic vibes, I will say. So yay, the gay is excited over here about that book. But we read all kinds of stuff. So if you want to hang out with us and other Spooksters and talk about books, please come join us in the book clubs app. Again, that is Spookster Literary Society. And if you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Three Spooked Girls. For as little as $1, you get one bonus episode a month. Jess just did a crazy, weird animal attacks themed type of episode for us. And I'm still thinking about that episode because I'm like, oh my God. New fear unlocked, being attacked by a wild animal. Glad that happened after I moved out of Alaska, by the way, just saying. So we do those once a month, and if you would like ad-free episodes the day before, you can join us at our $5 tier. And we have a ton of backlog. You think we have a lot of episodes here on the main feed. We also almost equally have a lot of episodes over there that you guys can check out as well, and some video content that we had done during COVID era and things like that. And yeah, it's just really fun and just a little bit more of us for you guys over there. And speaking of, if you haven't caught up, you can catch up on Social Seance Society. That is our second show. That is free. And that is anywhere you get your podcasts. So wherever you're listening to us now, you can check those out. We did our Hunger Games deep dive for our previous season. And this next season is something I can't tell you yet, but we will be telling soon. And I'm so excited because we started doing the stuff needed for the first episode's topic kind of on accident. We did it early together and it was so fun and you guys are going to love it. I can't wait to share it, but I can't say anything else yet.
My favorite part of it is that Tara and I did it together.
Yes.
And normally when we do any kind of research, it's very siloed because it's like she's doing her bit and I'm doing my bit. But this time it like lended itself to us being together.
Yeah.
And I was so happy. And I think it's going to make for a really, really interesting kind of like listening experience for you because we got to have the experience together.
I feel like because we've done the first episode that way, we have to do the rest of them that way.
Do the rest. Yeah.
It'll make sense soon, guys.
It will. It will. And as a reminder, that show is a seasonal one. So we go for about 3 months and then we take a month off and then we go there. So currently we are not in session.
No.
But you can get caught up. We've done some really great stuff. There's a lot of episodes over there. So if you want more of us, definitely check it out.
Yeah. If you guys haven't listened to our backlog, we do drop, especially since we started doing like our deep dives and things like that, we've dropped an episode from those seasons. So like the part 1 of the Hunger Games, part 1 of our Twilight deep dive, definitely check those out. It's a lot of fun. It's very different than what we do here, but still us, obviously. And we have a lot of fun. And for those of you that are regular listeners for that show too, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. But that's all I got today, guys. So we are going to strap in because I foresee this being a long episode. So like I said, this documentary just came out on Netflix rather recently. And actually, I have to give a shout out to my coworker, Hannah. She suggested you and I watch this. She had recently watched it and was saying, check it out. I want to hear what you guys have to say, And I was like, okay, cool. It hadn't even popped up for me. I hadn't seen anything. I went into this blind, but like I said in the beginning, it's such a weird way to describe it, I know, but it's such a beautiful documentary. I loved how they did it.
It is.
It's very victim focused. This could have went a very different way and focused on the murderer. And also, she was a professional cyclist, so this was just very different than the kind of documentaries we usually do. And yeah, it was a great watch. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, so y'all definitely check it out. So, like I mentioned, very victim focused. So we start out with a montage of like home videos and stuff. This was in the mid 90s because Moriah was born in 1996. It's so cute. It's Moriah, her brother, and her parents. So it's a family of 4, and they are from Vermont. We open with her mom, Karen, who I love so much. She is telling us that Moriah was born during a thunderstorm and that her lungs were thunder, aka she was a loud-ass baby. And she makes jokes that she's like, this is probably why she was such a good athlete, because she just had the lung capacity. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's adorable.
That's hilarious.
Right. And during this time, we go back and forth between photos during her cycling career and when she was a kid. And that's like what makes this also a little unique, is because she was doing races and stuff professionally, we get a lot of footage of her during her career as well. Her mom says that she felt like it was as if I had always known her. And she said one day she was listening, she didn't say what song it was, but she said she was listening to a Sean Colvin song and said she thought that she's gonna maybe leave me someday. And that's just, given how everything plays out, is really heartbreaking. And we see footage of her playing with her brother. She's started skiing at a very young age. Fun fact, her dad was almost in the Olympics himself. He was like super good athlete. And it's just kind of like the apple didn't fall far from the tree because she was also a very amazing, talented athlete. And her brother and her dad are both also in this. Her brother comes on the screen and he says, looking back, somehow her body or her soul in some way knew that she had less time than most people. And that's why maybe she had a sense of anxiety or urgency with everything she did. And just from the clips we start to see, you can see like she had such a radiant smile. You could tell she just lived for cycling. She loved it so much. You can just see that passion like in her face. And this was even like, obviously, of course, as she's winning these races and on the podiums with, her medals and stuff. But it's like even just waiting to start the races, right? Like you can just tell she was just so passionate about it. And she was just such a badass. She did gravel cycling. And she really didn't do it for a long time. She only did it for a few years at this point, but she was already winning races back to back to back. And it wasn't even like she was barely winning these races. They say later on that she was winning these races by like hours.
Right.
So she was just a machine. And at this point in time, while she's in her career, we're at about 2022. And she was actually getting ready to move back home with her family. But unfortunately, that did not get to happen. So then we cut to May 11th, 2022 in Austin, Texas, and we hear the beginning of a 911 call. A woman states, "My friend is staying with me and I just walked in and she's laying on the bathroom floor and there's blood everywhere." And this was at 9:54 p.m. And this woman was her friend named Caitlin Cash, who, this is who you want as a friend. This is who you want. And I don't want to get emotional. Oh my God, I'm already going to cry. Sorry, guys. I get so emotional with like friend stuff because, Jess. In my notes, I put Cash because that's like what Karen, the mom, and I feel so bad because I forgot Mariah's dad's name, but that's what they call her as. So that's what I'll call her during this. But anyway, she's on the phone and, the operator's like, is she awake? Is she moving? Things like that. And she says, no, she is not awake. There is blood all over the back of her head and she is not breathing. And the 911 operator instantly starts guiding her through doing compressions while they wait for, authorities to arrive. And this is so, so sad. And we see in this documentary too, we get a lot of crime scene photos, we get a lot of body cam footage, and we get a lot of like ring camera type of footage, which will come into play a lot later into this.
Her dad's name is Eric.
Okay, thank you. I knew I wrote his name down somewhere, but not at the beginning.
I got you.
So when we're looking at these crime scene photos, we're seeing immediately, you can just tell if you've watched any crime, anything. There's no signs of like a struggle. There's no signs of a break-in, anything like that. They do show a lot of, I don't know what the proper word is for it, but like the shells from a gun, basically.
The casings?
The casings, thank you. I'm like, I don't know this word.
I got you.
We see those around the house, though, because there's a few of these. We start seeing more of the body cam footage as the police arrive there, and Cash is doing compressions, and we're still hearing the 911 call. She's like, hey, you got to come in this certain way, X, Y, and Z, because it's like, I think it's like a duplex type of situation or something, because she's, she's like, I'm unit such and such, right? Mm-hmm. And the police pull her aside, and of course, she's exactly in the state you would think she would be in. And she starts telling them everything she can. And she's like, well, she did have plans with someone that night. And that person's name is Colin Strickland. And Caitlin says to producers she couldn't understand why they weren't bringing Mo, or Moriah, to the hospital. And after a while, she said that she finally asks, why is it taking them so long to get her into the ambulance? She needs help. And then that's when they tell her she didn't make it. And we cut from here to Mo's parents' home, which is like so gorgeous. I mean, it's in Vermont. It's on this farm and they have all this land and things like that. And Karen and Eric, they are out at this garden. And this is important because Karen tells us that day she was laying cardboard down to extend their garden because Mo was about to come home and she wanted to start extending it for her so she could start her own part in the garden and things like that. She said that state police rolled up and approached and asked if she knows Anna Wilson. Anna Wilson is Mariah's legal name. Mariah's her middle name, and everybody calls her Mo, and that's just what I wrote in my notes. And so she asks if she's okay, and they say, no, she's gone. And instantly, they are just like, what the fuck? What the fuck happened? Like, this makes zero sense. Well, then we start to meet some of the key players in the investigation. We meet Detective Richard Spittler of Austin PD. He said he received a call notifying him that there had been a murder, one person had been shot, and that there was no suspect info. And he lets us know that this was his first homicide investigation as a lead detective, which at first I was like, oh no, this is not, I don't like that. But thankfully, very good at their jobs. I will say that.
Yeah. It seemed like it wasn't his, it was his first time as a lead detective, not his first time as a homicide detective.
Yes.
That can take a really long time to get there. So he's probably worked a lot. So I was like, okay. I could tell at that moment that some people were like, the first time? I'm like, it's not his first rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least his second.
Right. Like, he's obviously been there a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of confirms what we have seen in the pictures and footage so far, that there was no forced entry, nothing was damaged, there was no disturbance. They bring Cash in, of course, to start talking to her. And they bring her into an interrogation room. We get to see all of this footage, and they're kind of going through things, and they tell her, hey, we need to swab your hands for gunshot residue. We need to take a DNA sample. They're just asking her all these things, and she said she felt like at first she was being questioned as a suspect. I mean, they have to do their due diligence, so I do understand that, and I think we kind of all do too. And then she talks about how eventually they let her go wash her hands because at that time, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, she was doing compression, so she's covered in Mo's blood.
Right.
She talks about how when it was washing down the drain, she has a distinct memory of thinking that she wanted it back because that was the last of her friend. We get this scene of her asking if Mo had been taken from the house, and she says she's still laying there, and they say yes, because they're still processing the scene. And, you know, he's kind of explaining, like, we got to do all this first before we can move her and things like that. And it just broke my heart because she's just like, well, she's not alone, right? Like, no one's leaving her alone. And he caught on so quick what she was asking. He's like, no, she's not going to be by herself. They are right there with her, you know, things like that. Right. And I was just like, cry some more, Tara, but I'm going to try not to cry anymore this episode. Sorry. And producers then asked Cash to go over how she met Mo and her family. And she says that she was the co-owner of a small B&B over in East Burke, Vermont. She had moved up there shortly after the pandemic in 2021. And she said when she got there, she didn't know anybody. She didn't have any friends, no family, nothing like that. So she decided to sign up for the women's gravel clinics and also the mountain biking clinics to try and start finding her community and her friends and things like that. And with her doing that, she was asked to do the social media for a race called Rooted Vermont, and Mo was in this race. This was also the only race that her parents were able to go to, so this was the only one they saw, and Cash didn't meet Mo first. Cash met her parents first because since she was doing the social media, she was talking to people being like, oh, who are you here supporting, you know, blah, 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 and then they said, oh, we're here for Mo. And she was like shook because she was like, Mo was my favorite racer. So I was like, oh my God, this is meant to be. It turned into this beautiful thing. She didn't get to meet Mo yet, but she ended up actually getting close with the family. And there was a picture of her like holding hands with the brother. I'm not going to like speculate, but I'm like, oh, did she like date the brother for a second? I'm like, they dated for a minute. What the fuck?
I was speculating and I was like, oh, but you know what? It's fine because like she seems like a lovely person and he seems like a lovely person.
She does.
I will say that when I watched it, I had already heard Tara watch it. We'd been on the phone while she was watching it and I was just listening to her. But like, so I kind of knew, like I knew who the murderer was and everything. But I was like, if you didn't know, you'd be like, what are they setting this up for?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I was gasping so many times during this. It was obnoxious, but it was crazy. So she did finally meet Mo at a race in Bentonville, Arkansas, and that race was called Big Sugar. This was in 2021. It is a 110-mile course. Cash was doing a 50-mile course version of this race and talks about how Mo did over double the amount of mileage and finished like 10 minutes after she finished the 50. So it's just like this girl so badass, like literally finished the race in 5.5 hours because they showed us. That is insanity to me.
When they were like, she's like, yeah, I was just only there for like 10 minutes and then she rolled up doing 110. I was like, this woman is inhuman.
Literally crazy.
She a robot.
Yes. And Mo's parents obviously still very much love Cash. Mo's dad comes on and says that the two of them had become instant friends, almost like sisters, hence why more crying for me. And we see more footage of Mo during races and stuff, which is just, you know, really special. I really appreciated that. Karen talks more about Mo as a child and said from an early age, she had the gift of being an athlete and was extremely driven. She originally gravitated to downhill skiing. And we also, during this documentary, we get little snippets of Mo's journals because Mo was super into journaling basically her whole life. At her first race, her mom said like she was studying people and had this look of like, I want to do that. I want to be on that podium. I want to win. And as we get the passages, she does talk about that and talks about how she wants to be in the Olympics and, you know, things like that and how she's going to do whatever it takes. And her dad actually reads a passage on how much she wants to be an Olympian. And I loved that extra layer of getting to know Mo as an individual. So, Mo had been enrolled at the Burke Mountain Academy, which opened originally in 1970. They had the first program like this. Basically, the kids would go to school for half the day and then they would go train for skiing the other half of the day. And you didn't just go here if you like skiing. Like every single kid that went there wanted to be an Olympian, wanted to make this their career. And this is when we kind of find out about how her dad had tried to go for the Olympics and he had missed it by like one spot and things like that. So this ended up really being a perfect place for her. Unfortunately, during her skiing career, she tore her ACL twice. The second time just kind of was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. That's the end of that career. But from there, that's when she pivoted to cycling. And her family really encouraged her and everyone really supported her. And also during this, we do meet a couple people also in the cycling community, not only racers, but we meet a cycling journalist later on here in a second. But we meet this guy named Alan Lim. He's a cycling coach and sports scientist. He calls her a once-in-a-generation athlete and talks about how low the probability to always be the winner. But literally, like I said, Mo won so much. So she was just extraordinary. Like she was just amazing, right? She had won, they said, about 6 to 7, I believe it was, races within 2 years. And it was just going to go up from there. So in early 2022, she went down to Austin and stayed with Cash for a few weeks. And Cash talks about how this really bonded them together because not only was she staying at her house, they ended up working at the same place together. So they were literally spending all day and all night with each other. So they really, really got close. Then we jump back over to our murder timeline. So the day after, so May 12th, 2022, we meet Guillermo Gonzalez, who's the director of the trial court division. And he talks about how at first they didn't know all this extra stuff. They didn't know she was a professional athlete. They just had been told, hey, there was a murder and we have nothing to go off of right now. We also meet a few district attorneys, one being Ricky Jones. He's second assistant district attorney, and he described Guillermo as intense and how much pressure, you know, these kind of cases can give them. And he said that Guillermo definitely felt the pressure with this one. And then it was so funny to me because they were like, well, did you feel the pressure? And he's basically like, no, girl, I did not. And I was like, okay. It was so funny. And we meet another really cool person. We meet Pamela Mazik. She's a criminal intelligence analyst. And she talks about how at first they literally could not figure out any kind of motive. They couldn't figure out who would have done this. There was nothing obvious right away for them to go off of. So they're like, what the actual fuck? They noticed that initially Mo's bike was missing. So they're like, oh, was this really a burglary gone wrong? If she was home, maybe the door was unlocked, you know, things like that. But there was literally nothing else to suggest that in any way. So then they started digging more. Thank goodness. And they start collecting all of the physical evidence and then a ton of digital evidence. And since Cash mentioned Colin Strickland, they decided to follow up with him because she had said like, hey, she was supposed to meet him tonight and had plans with him, whatever. Because at this point, we don't know what's happened, right?
Right.
So they go get him and man, you guys know we watched this multiple times. So the second time I felt a little different versus my initial gut reaction with this. So we get the body cam footage of them going to his house. And the first time I watched it, and I literally said this to Jess, I'm like, why is he acting like he doesn't know who the hell this girl is? Like, what the fuck? But then when I realized it, when I watched it the second time, initially they called her by her legal name. They called her Anna. They didn't call her Mo, or they were calling her like
Monique.
Yeah, they called her Monique, and that's not her fucking name. Her name she went by was Moriah or Mo. But then he said Mo, and then it clicks, and he's like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. But obviously, he didn't know what her first name was. And I'm like, okay, Spittler, what the fuck are you doing? Like, God damn it. I was like, you can't read your fucking handwriting. That's what happened with that.
And it was not a good police work moment because he was like trying to read his own handwriting And he was like, Monique, Monica. And it was like, he wrote down Mo and was just trying to guess what the Mo name was. Because her name is Mariah.
Right.
And a lot of people think Mariah with an A.
Yeah.
Because of Carrie, right? So I could see that, but like, I understand because I heard you react. Like you were like, he don't even know who she is. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, it's because the police officer wasn't telling him who she was, right?
The right name. Right. Exactly. So I was like, oh, okay. And then from there, we flashed to another guy named Gunnar Shaw. And this was Mo's former boyfriend. And he tells us about how he met her in the cycling community. Him and his friend, they were going to go for a ride, and the friend had invited her, and he made the joke of being like, oh, is she going to be able to keep up? And his friend was like, dude, shut the fuck up. She's a fucking badass. And he was like, yeah, she's a fucking badass. Never mind. I ate my words kind of thing. And he's like, even with how amazing she was never a cocky person, that she was actually very quiet and reserved and more introverted. And he said he's, very extroverted. They're opposites, but that he loved that about her. They had both grown up in Vermont and both went to Dartmouth. He was a couple years older. They started dating her sophomore year. So after he graduated, he moved to California for a job. And so they were long distance for about 2 years. But he said he was very sure about her and everything like that. And after she graduated, she moved out there. And in October of 2020, they moved to Mill Valley over by San Francisco. But unfortunately, they eventually did break up. Wasn't anything bad or anything like that. Basically, he tells us, she was prioritizing her career, and they had this sit down talk. And she said, the emotional fulfillment and the fulfillment I need in my life, I get from cycling. I don't get that with you anymore. And their relationship had fizzled out. And he's not being salty or anything. He's just like, yeah, it is what it is. And I understand. So I wanted her to succeed. And it sounds like they stayed friends after that anyway.
That's what I was just about to say. It sounded like they stayed close because it sounded like they were basically like a romantic partnership that was really friends. And then she was like, I want to go and do this because she's having to train and travel because it's not like, San Francisco has a lot of races, but it's not like she's not going to get all of it out.
No, she's traveling.
Right. So she's traveling a lot.
Yeah, she's going all over the country.
And so probably thinking we've already been long distance. This just isn't working. Why not cut him loose so that he can go get the same fulfillment that I get from cycling if he wants that in a relationship? Because, he's still in this, he's in the documentary and he's not, like Tara said, he's not being like, and she picked cycling over me. He was like, fuck yeah, she picked cycling over me. She's a badass. It was very much like he was still championing her.
Yeah, for sure. So after their breakup, Mo moved in with a college friend named Kimmy, and they were both going through long-term breakups. And so they bonded over that, and they had moved in together January of 2022. Kimmy said they bonded over, being single women for the first time and their healing journeys and things like that. Then we flash back over to Colin. And he's now at the police station talking with them. And he said that Mo had mentioned Cash had plans that night. So since Mo didn't have any friends there besides Cash, he's like, she's kind of a loner. She's very introverted, things like that. I decided I'll just take her to do something fun. She was there for another race.
Yeah.
So their plan was they were going to hang out and go swimming and then grab some food and kind of catch up. He was also in the cycling community. He had been a racer as well. They talked a lot about shop and things like that, right? Now, I just refer to him as Ian the journalist. Knew Colin because he had covered stories on him. We see footage of an interview where he's featuring him. He goes to the same house, his same garage with all of his bikes and stuff. And they're talking about that and things like that. Because Colin, at that time that they were filming that interview, he had just won a big race. This was back in 2019. He was very successful and had built his own personal brand and had a lot of good relationships with sponsors and things like that. And that'll come more into play in a moment. And we also meet Katie Quay, who is Mo's manager. Sorry, I keep throwing so many names, but we meet a lot of people during this. Mo had told Kate about going on a training ride with Colin. Kate said that Mo said it in a way that Kate should have known who he was because he was a Texas state champion and all this other stuff. So she looked into him and she's like, oh, okay. And we meet some more of her like racer friends who talk about it. And Colin was very well known in the community there and not the best.
For multiple reasons.
For not only winning a lot, but also being known. I'm sorry, Colin, being known as a fuckboy. Let's be real.
Yeah.
He had this on and off again girlfriend that kind of became this like enigma / joke. They literally say she was the girl that was around everywhere, but was not introduced. And there was like a running joke of like, oh, who's Caitlyn? Who is Caitlyn? Like, da-da-da. Like, because literally she was just kind of like there off to the side. And originally, Mo and Colin had met at an event and they had a beer and it was literally just talking about racing and things like that. He does admit he was attracted to her, but nothing inappropriate happened because at that time he was with Caitlyn, so he was trying to respect his relationship.
You know what's weird about like Colin and Caitlyn? Well, Colin is my age.
Oh, wow.
I looked it up because I was like, I knew how old Mo was, but I was like, I wonder how old this guy was. Really, I was trying to figure out how long he was in the racing world. Mm-hmm. And then when it was said he was born in 1986, I was like, oh, we have this in common, sir.
Right.
You too old for this.
Right. And this is where I was like, oh, Mo and Gunnar stayed friends because Gunnar comes back on and says that they were talking and she was telling him like Colin was going to help her get sponsors and stuff, which was pretty common because like a lot of things in the world, this, industry is very misogynistic. So it does help if there's a female cyclist. And they say this themselves. If there's a female cyclist looking for sponsors or trying to break through, if they have, a male counterpart with them, it makes it easier for them. So that's what he was supposed to be doing for her. And she had told her cyclist friends that she was still going to go down to Austin because this is when she went down the first time to see Cash. She was supposed to do a race, but it got canceled. And it was so funny because like one of the girls that was also supposed to be in this race, Mo had called her and was like, do you still want to go? And she's like, no, I don't want to go to Austin now. Like, kind of shit. But Mo went anyway because she wanted to see Colin. She was at this point interested in him romantically. Colin talks about with police how him and Caitlyn were on a drive back from Bentonville from Arkansas after a race, and it was what he called a breakup drive. He said during that time she moved into the spare room of the house and that they didn't really fight over this, but they were partners in a lot of different things. So their lives were super intertwined, which yes, they very much were intertwined. He says that he got a text from Mo letting him know that she was still coming to visit, even though that other race had been canceled. Mo and Colin hung out during this week. They described it as hanging out in a dating way, but no one thought Colin was going to hurt her or anything like that. Basically, at this point, he said that he was doing this to show Caitlyn like he was really done with her because, like I said, super on and off a lot. And then we go back to more footage in the interrogation room because that part was like all voiceover, right? And they ask him if he knew if Cash or Mo had any firearms, and he said he highly doubted it. And then he's asked if he had any, and he said yes. He had gotten one last fall that he never shot, and it was a 9mm, and the casings at the scene were a 9mm. He said he had also purchased one for his girlfriend as well that was at the house, also a 9mm, blah, blah, blah. He's kind of showing texts from that day of the murder between Mo and him, and she's listed under a fake name. And he's like, oh, this is going to look bad, but disclaimer, I had her in like this because Caitlyn was known to go through all of my stuff and had all of my passwords, managed my bank accounts, had blocked girls on my phone before, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, she could find the info she wanted if she wanted to.
Right.
Like she could find what she needed to find kind of thing. And we see some texts from Colin to Mo and said, I had a fantastic time showing you around the bright spots of Austin and greater Texas. You're a very rare talent with a sharp intellect and a fun and beautiful spirit. After this, we get more journal entries where Mo is talking about Colin and says that she was gravitating towards his words of affection. He made me feel safe, like I mattered and had value, which obviously getting a text like that, who wouldn't feel that way, right?
Right.
And she goes on to say, I think I like him more than I care to admit, and I fear he doesn't feel the same way. So she was picking up on the vibe. She knew what kind of dude she was dealing with.
Right.
Cash talks about after this trip is when Colin pulled back from Mo, and Mo's, because they're best friends, basically. They're talking about this, and we hear convos that are like voice notes and stuff. And she talks about another time when she went to Arkansas, but she hadn't heard from him and asked if Cash had seen him. And she said that she had texted him, but it didn't go through. I would assume she was probably blocked. Don't know if that was whether he'd done it or Caitlin had done. We don't know. But then when she was in Austin, she saw Colin and Caitlin at this place called The Meteor. And she said, it was very superficial, like, hey, how are you doing? Great to see you, whatever, whatever. And she said it was just really weird. And she knew it wasn't going to really be anything. But she's like, I still want my closure from this because what the fuck, right?
Right.
And back with Colin in the interrogation room. And of course, they ask if the two of them had slept together or anything like that. And he says, no, we didn't even kiss. And of course, they're all like, well, we're going to do an autopsy. So are you really sure? We need to know because we're going to find out either way. And he's like, no, we really did not. And they didn't. And Colin talks about how he was trying to build up a trailer business and Caitlin was super knowledgeable with finances. So she was basically the manager over the company. He's at the end of his cycling career. So he was trying to pivot. So he said because Mo was just entering the cycling community and her career was just now taking off and he was kind of like on the out, they weren't necessarily a compatibility match, and that Caitlin was still wanting to be a part of his life even though he was leaving that scene. So that was the choice he was making. He said that they did have a talk in February of 2022 that they were going to go their separate ways, and that all was copacetic with him and Mo. Also around this time, she does a race in San Diego called the Belgian Waffle Ride, which super fun name. I'm like, oh my gosh, we were making all kinds of jokes about that. We're like, do they get a waffle? Is the trophy in the shape of a waffle? It was like, we're like, what the fuck?
I know. And then we were like sitting there. I was like, I want a waffle.
Right. I know. But the race she was coming to do that May, which was why she went back the second time, was Gravel's Locos. And Cash talks about how Mo had came down a few days before and they spent some time together. And the morning of the murder, Cash was recording Mo, like leaving to go for a morning bike ride, and texts Karen, your girl's here, safe with me. And poor Cash, I just want to hug her because she starts talking about how she feels so guilty having sent that text and then having all of this happen. And I'm just like, girl, you didn't know. She was safe with you. Like, she was safe with you. This is not your fault. Like, I always hate that. I just want to like hug people that blame themselves like this so much.
Right.
And then Colin, we get back to the interrogation room and he's talking about everything, that they went over. They went swimming, they went and ate, and they talked about cycling and all of that and talking about the race that was coming up because the next day they had like an athlete pre-dinner they were going to be going to. And he says that Caitlin called while they were eating, but he didn't answer. And he says after that he dropped her off at Cash's house and said, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. And that was the last time he saw her. After this, we get another journal entry, which was just beautiful because she's reflecting on like the kind of person she wants to be and how she wants to be this positive person for everybody in life. That's just like anytime they're around her, like she brings joy to people, right? And just from watching all of these interviews from people who knew her, her family, her friends, you can tell she was definitely that person for sure. Cash said that after the murder, she was afraid to talk to Karen at first. And when she called and as soon as she answered, Karen said, I love you so much and all of that. And she kind of talks about all of the regrets and like everything. And it's just so heartbreaking. And then we kind of start talking about how everybody, all these other friends and stuff started finding out. And that was also so sad. Gunnar said that he knew something was wrong because he not only had missed calls and texts from his own dad, but like Karen had called him too, which obviously like shows like how good of friends they even stayed after if like Karen's calling him, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was so sad because one of her other cycling friends said that Mo was just now learning that it was safe to open up to people. And I was just like, ugh. My heart. And then we meet another police officer. We meet Sergeant Katie Connor. She says basically anytime there's like a murder case like this, it's all hands on deck. So she was very involved. We see her in the interrogation room as well during this. And she said that she was watching and verifying things as Colin was telling them as far as like, their plans and everything like that. And Ring cameras are the MVP with this whole case, genuinely. If you have a security camera, like, keep those. So we start seeing some footage. We see a footage of a black Jeep SUV driving what looks to be up to Cash's home at 8:37. It has chrome trim, a luggage rack, and a bike rack mounted on the trailer hitch, which is very specific. They start thinking and they're like, wait a minute, that looks like the same vehicle we saw at Colin's house when we went and talked to him in his garage. So they ask him, they're like, is this your car? And he says, no, that's Caitlin's car. I didn't even drive it that night. I took my motorcycle and picked up Mo on it, and that's how I dropped her off, whatever. So then it comes up, Caitlin had also been out for a while and wasn't there when he got home. So Spittler asks if he talked to Caitlin when she returned, and he said no, because he was working in the garage on some bikes for the upcoming race. So they're like, okay, that's sketch. So they get a search warrant and they find the 2 pistols. And it's exactly like he said. It was both 9mm and all of that. And of course, obviously, he was very open about that. Karen comes on and she says she remembers saying to the police officer, I bet it was Colin's girlfriend. She was the only one who didn't like Mo. And the producer is like, wait, what? And Karen just kind of like nods. Then Spittler tells Colin in the interrogation room he knows for a fact that Caitlin's car was at Cash's, and he's just kind of silent for a second because obviously he doesn't know what to say, and you just see him like put his head in his hands, and he's just, I think, in shock, honestly, because he's like, what the fuck do you mean my girlfriend's car was over here? Why would she even be here? Like, she wasn't friends with them, you know?
Right.
So we bring in Caitlin. And Caitlin in her fuck-ass pants. I don't know what the hell was going on, or if there was like compression sleeve things over her pants, but it's like, I know this is such a dumb, petty thing to focus on, and I felt validated because like I saw a TikTok this morning because somebody else was like, what the fuck is that? But she's got like jeans on, and then she's got, they look like compression type of sleeve things or something, but they're like pulled down over her like heel of her foot. It's like basically, okay, the easiest way to paint this picture is like if someone who's really short is wearing like leggings or something that are like way too long and they're like pulled down.
Yeah.
And she's wearing flip-flops with it. It's like fucking weird.
It is a very weird outfit.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. The whole thing was weird. So we see who I'm going to call Sergeant Katie brought Caitlin in, and Caitlin is playing dumb, being like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what's going on. So Sergeant Katie's like, well, did you hear about what's happened in the last 24 hours? And she says, oh, yes, I've heard that a woman in the cyclist community has passed away. Colin told me. So they go a little bit back and forth, and Caitlin immediately is like, I need a lawyer. I don't want to talk. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to go. And Sergeant Katie's like, well, you can. You're not under arrest, but we kind of need the information from you because your names came up. And we want to get the info. We don't want to have to make this into anything it's not. We just want to know. And Caitlin's like, I don't give a shit. I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Because they made it very clear to her that she was not under arrest, that she was not being detained, that she was just there to answer some questions.
Yes. And then we meet someone who was friends with Colin and Caitlin. Her name's Virginia. And she kind of tells us more about how they had this kind of toxic break up, get back together type of situation going on, whatever. And basically she was trying to be very nice about it, but she was like, Colin could not give Caitlin what she needed type of thing, which we already know he's got this fuckboy reputation. So I was like, he can't stay committed to her. Got it.
Right.
So then we go back to Caitlin and Sergeant Katie, and she has to leave because they're like, well, we know Colin was like seeing Mo or talking to Mo or with Mo, you know, earlier that night, yesterday, whatever. And she's like, I didn't know that. What are you talking about? I don't know shit about fuck, basically, is what she's trying to say. And then Sergeant Katie's like, well, you know shit about something because we saw your vehicle over at Cash's house. And then Cash comes back on the screen and she tells us that Mo had an unknown number calling and she only answered it because it was a Texas area code. So she thought it was going to be like a sponsor or something. She was waiting on some calls.
Right.
So she answers it and it's a woman, it's Caitlin, saying, hi, Mo. And she's like, well, who the fuck is this? And she's like, it's Caitlin. And then she tells Mo basically that her and Colin are still together and she needed to remove herself from that situation, that he was not single, whatever. And that was, you know, very weird. But like at that point, they had already decided not to pursue things like that. Like Colin had said, like back in February, they had been like, okay, cool, we're just going to be friends. And everything they had talked about was strictly business,
right.
Strictly cycling stuff. It was nothing sketchy. And then Sergeant Katie kind of tries to press her more about like her vehicle being there. And she was like, well, Colin said, you know, you have a little bit of a jealous streak and things like that. So we're just really trying to see what's going on and why would your vehicle show up over there and things like that. No one's accusing her of anything at this point. They're literally just positioning it like, we just need the information so we can figure out what happened. She gets up and leaves and they have to let her go. You know, she, like Jess said, she wasn't under arrest. They don't have enough info to hold her at this point. So after that, Sergeant Katie goes over with Spittler and they're talking to Colin and they ask, what does he think about all this? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, what do you think about all this? And he's like, well, what do you think? Like, I think, is she capable of doing this? There's no way. I would never let someone like that live in my house. You know, there's no way she did this. And then we get more of Virginia, and Virginia is talking about how they were also at the Meteor. This was like their little regular hangout place, apparently. And she says that one night she had asked Caitlin what would she do if she saw Colin with another person, and Caitlin's response was, I'd kill them.
Yeah.
Just deadpan, serious, and they all thought she was joking. And then we go back to the interrogation room and we see Colin breaking down, realizing, holy shit, Caitlin might have fucking done this. What the fuck? After all of that, our journalist guy, Ian, comes back and he talks about how Caitlin was worried the house was bugged, so she didn't want to talk about anything about this at the house, so they went to a coffee shop. And the cops had their phones, and Colin said to her, because she was making a big deal about not having her phone, he said, well, why don't you just go buy a new phone until we get ours back? Like, go get a prepaid phone or something. So she does. While they are beginning the investigation, Spittler said that they asked neighbors for Ring camera footage so they could try to figure out who was driving Caitlin's car. And there was one neighbor who luckily had a constant feed set up. He didn't just have the motion recording. He would record for hours at a time, like 24/7 basically. And he talks about how he was playing this in the background while he was catching up on some work. And anytime there was like a car that drove by, he would like stop what he was doing and like see if it was the Jeep or not. And if it wasn't, it obviously wasn't, he'd like go back, whatever. And he says then on the timestamp 9:15, he hears a female scream and 2 gunshots. He said the screaming stops and then there's a 6-second pause and then there's another gunshot. So now they know the exact time that the murder takes place. And with other people's camera footage, they were able to confirm Colin's motorcycle is seen leaving, and they were able to trace him with his phone data to see that he went immediately home and that he actually got a call while he was home at the exact time of the murder. So they're like, okay, we can rule him out. He was not the one driving the Jeep. And while all that's going on at the same time, ballistics confirm that from the 2 recovered guns, one of them was the murder weapon. I'm sure you can kind of start to put together things. So since Colin was confirmed to be at home and Caitlin was the only other person who had access to it, this gave them probable cause that Caitlin was now a suspect, so they issued a warrant for her. Just a few days later, they moved really fast with this. So on May 17th, they put that out. But guess what? Caitlin was nowhere to be found. And they not only was Austin PD looking for her, but they also had U.S. Marshals and the FBI involved. They figure out she sold the Jeep at CarMax.
Like felt like minutes of leaving.
Minutes. It's like she left the police station and immediately sold the car, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only that, then they started getting security footage from the airport. And guess who was at the fucking airport? Caitlin. And they were able to track at that time, she had went to Newark in New York. And from there, this is insane, guys. So they say interchangeably, they say her sister's passport and then they say a fake passport. Either way, had her sister's info on it. Because when they could not find anything else for Caitlin's passport leaving the country, they're like, wait a minute. She went and saw her sister run her sister's shit. And then they saw her sister's passport had been on a flight to Costa Rica on the 19th. And not only that, with this fake name, she had had multiple surgeries to change her appearance, and even before getting on the flight to Costa Rica, had already dyed her hair to look more like her sister.
It's trippy.
Trippy as fuck. So then we meet Jean Sullivan, who's the assistant district attorney. Of course, they started building the case while they were searching for her and everything because they knew she was in Costa Rica, but it took them a little bit to find her. Basically, phone records were useless because Caitlin had put it in airplane mode, so they weren't able to track her after a certain time. But during the search warrant, they realized Caitlin's car had the GPS system. So then they went over to CarMax and they were luckily able to get it and pull that data. And they talk more about how Caitlin was in charge of finances for Colin and everything. And he had recently given her $40,000 to invest back into the company. So they were like, oh, she took that money and fucking ran. And Virginia talks more about how if Caitlin wants something, she makes it happen, and how they couldn't find her at first, but when they looked into her, they had seen her professional experience. She had been like a yoga instructor and things like that. So they're like, you know what? We're going to put out an ad. And guess what? That dumb bitch responded to it.
That was what blew my mind. It was that they were like, oh, we can't find her.
You're hiding and you're going to answer this? What is wrong with you?
And I mean, I guess like she had like moved to this, you know, she was in Costa Rica and she was moving on and like she was settling in and she probably was like, well, I need a job.
And so they ended up getting her on June 29th. So she was gone for like over a month. And when they had gotten her, and they didn't say this in the documentary, but I went and looked it up after, she had 7 different procedures done. And some of them had been so fresh, like her nose job had been so fresh, she still had the bandages on.
Right.
When they arrested her. She was still bruised up from her fucking surgeries. So they get her, they bring her back to the US, and I fucking roll with her defense attorney. I'm like, I hate you. Because of course, he's trying to make it look like Caitlin's the fall guy for having murdered Mo. Well, an innocent person wouldn't do what's next. 18 days later, 18 days after her arrest, she had to be taken to follow-up appointments for these surgeries she just had done. And oh my God, you guys have to watch this part at least, because I hate to be like, this was fucking funny, but it fucking was funny. So she's trying to run away from the police. She's in her jail striped pants. Her hands are cuffed in front of her. She's running up this hill. And I don't know who picked this officer to go with her, but this officer is huffing and puffing and falls like 5 fucking times trying to get her.
Oh my God, falls so many times.
You're just like, oh my God, they fell. Oh my God, they fell again. Oh my God, they look like they're gonna slip. No fucking way. I don't know if it was I think it was a female, but this officer fell so many times. And then Caitlin's dumbass is trying to like climb this fence with these handcuffs. It's so crazy. It's comical. You're like, what the fuck?
I was surprised she got as far as she did.
Yeah.
She got a mile away. And I was like, how? How did she get out of the parking lot?
It's crazy. It is so crazy. It's just like, what the actual shit, right? And it's also like, bitch, if you're innocent, you wouldn't be fucking running away, would you? No.
It wasn't well thought through because, like, again, she's like, even though the handcuffs are in front of her,
where's she gonna go?
She's still handcuffed.
Right. Where is she gonna go? Everyone, like, they put out all her info when they were searching for her. Like, this has gotten national attention at this point. So it's like she'd be easily recognizable. Like, come on, dude. What the fuck? But then we cut back to Karen, and she talks about how she tries to focus on being so grateful for having Mo for 25 years because Mo was 25 years old when she was murdered versus focusing on the loss. And I just thought that was so heartbreakingly beautiful to try to look at it that way. Like I've said a couple times, I'm just like, this is how it should be. Because like I said, they could have just focused on Caitlin. They could have like just made Mo a very side part, but they really, really took care to utilize what a beautiful and kind and driven and smart woman Mo was. They should all be like that. Then we jump a few months. All of this happened very quickly, which I'm like, thank goodness. Like for Mo's friends and family, I'm like, thank goodness this all happened fairly quickly, because sometimes we see these cases where it takes them years and years and years to go to trial. But they end up having their first day of trial on October 30th, 2023. She, of course, pleads not guilty. And I wrote down the clip we see, what her fuck-ass lawyer said. He said, "What a wonderful and easy way to paint a woman and to tell a story. The woman scorned. She had to be portrayed as the jealous psycho to create the motive." No, she didn't have to be painted that way. She is a jealous psycho. I will just say it. She's a jealous fucking psycho. And Cash takes a stand. She's talking to us about this and said that she just went into this zone of, this is the most important thing I could possibly do in my life. And I want justice to be served, and I want to do my absolute best for my friend. And again, like I said, the friend everybody can hope to have, and I'm so grateful to have. I know if I was murdered, that would be you.
1,000%.
and vice versa, obviously. And she said she made a point to look that bitch in the eyes, and she said there was nothing. And we can see Caitlyn during these clips too. Like, she's literally just sitting there, like nothing. No emotion, no crying, no nothing.
I really feel like she had really bad, I mean, obviously she had bad defense attorneys because just like the way they represent themselves.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was the worst advice they could have given her, is to be stoic and like not show emotion. I feel like if you're trying to say that you're innocent,
you should be crying and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and show emotion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she was like,
I'm here.
It wasn't even so much that she showed no emotion. It was almost like she was angry.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're putting off the wrong vibe there, hun. Like, you're trying to seem stoic, but it seems like forced. Like, I'm trying not to seem mad.
Right. And like I mentioned earlier, Mo's bike was not outside like it had originally been, but they did find it nearby. It had been stuffed into like some bushes. And the prosecution did something so impactful. They brought this bike in.
Right.
Because that's the last physical piece of Mo, really. And wouldn't you know, they found Caitlyn's DNA on it. And that's weird. If she's innocent, why would her DNA be on it at all? Just saying.
Specifically considering that she'd never had contact with this bike before.
Exactly. And I hated, oh my God, this is talked about later, but I'm going to talk about it right now. I hated how her defense was just like fucking around with the bike and like picking it up and then trying to be like, well, they only DNA tested this part. They didn't test the whole bike. And it's like, okay, but that does not fucking explain why Caitlyn, who had also never really interacted with Mo besides that weird ass phone call, why would she have touched her bike? Because the bike wasn't there when they ran into each other at the Meteor. They were at literally like a brewery. It's like a brewery type of situation.
Right.
I'm like, you're stupid. You're stupid and trash, dude. And they had already started the documentary during the trial. And like, so we get a little bit of footage after day 2. And Mo's family is also talking about how Caitlyn's this weird, stoic, no emotion whatsoever. And they're just like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. Colin does end up taking the stand on day 3. And you can tell that that man is not the same person at all who he was before Mo died. Now, it's predictable, I feel like, but it's also interesting. There's a group of people who blame Colin for Mo's death because of him basically being a fuckboy. But like, for me, no. And if you're different, you can obviously say so. Like, I'm sorry, just because you're being a fuckboy. And also they were broken up. Also, they were fucking broken up. I am just going to say that. And we're not trying to have a Rachel and Ross like they were on a break argument. But it's just like, they were not together. And it doesn't matter if they were together or not. It doesn't matter if you're a jealous bitch or not. Normal fucking people don't go murder someone just because they're texting their boyfriend about work shit.
Right.
Or even if they had slept together. You don't go fucking murdering people over that. So I fucking hate it. I hate it.
It really did bother me because the thing is that Colin, yes, he's the catalyst of like the reason, not like the reason why, but like was the trigger for Caitlyn to do this. Mm-hmm. But in no way does it make him responsible for this.
No.
Also, like I mentioned earlier, Colin and Caitlyn are not 25-year-olds.
No.
Colin is my age and Caitlyn is a year younger than me. And it's kind of like, you have to, like, you're an adult. Like, you're a full fucking adult. Like, she was 35 years old. Caitlyn was 9 to 10 years older than Mo. And you're telling me that you can't get your shit together and just acknowledge that this is a breakup? I'm really sorry, but, like, we don't know we know some of the inner dynamics of Colin and Caitlyn's relationship. It seems like it's been extremely toxic for years. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it was, because there's no fucking excuse for this woman that you've had 2 encounters with. 1, like you said, they saw each other at a brewery. And then 2, she called her on the phone. To then get a gun, drive to her house or drive to her friend's house, which
we'll talk about that. Yeah.
More information to come on that. But then kill this woman and then act like it's no big deal and then fucking flee the country. Like, you weren't going to get Colin back. Like, that's not what was going to happen.
No. And then also, they show texts that Caitlyn had sent Colin when she figured out, like, he was with Mo. And she said, I know you better than to show up at Meteor with that girl. And then right after that text, sent a video of her shooting the gun at a gun range.
Right.
Fucking psycho. She literally set her phone, because it's like a back view of her. So like she set her phone up, hit record, then went and fired off. Like, what the fuck?
And then edited it.
And then goes and does it. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Oh my God. Okay, so we get Pam, our criminal analyst, back on, and she is telling us, more again, like, hey, like Colin said, Caitlin had access to everything, and they think that she had seen the text, because it was all Apple products, so saw it on his iPad, even though Mo was under a fake name. That day when she got back from that morning ride, she had sent him a selfie, so that would confirm for Caitlin, oh, this is Mo.
Right.
And now, oh my God, she also tells us about the data they got from the Jeep's GPS. This chick goes to the place that they were swimming at, then follows them to the Meteor. She's at a parking lot and she turns her phone off. So then from there, they go just off the car stuff. So from there, she heads to Cash's neighborhood and waits. And this is like 2+ hours. And it's not even just like sitting outside of Cash's house. She is like doing laps through the neighborhoods.
Right.
And she would stop and park and all these different stuff. And like I said, they have pulled all the neighbors' cameras. They were able to find it all. They were able to see her going by multiple times, going by Cash's house multiple times, like a fucking crazy. And she's like a block away and she sees Mo get dropped off by Colin and watches Colin leave. And then she's circling back more. And Colin had like stopped at like either a light or a gas station and texted her to be like, hey, I'm done with, he didn't tell her where he was going, but he's like, hey, I'm done with my errands. Like, do you want to meet up for dinner? And of course, she doesn't respond. And she sits there from drop-off time, which was 8:30, and then murders Mo 45 minutes later at 9:15. Cannot tell me that was not planned out, because that is insanity. That is in-fucking-sane.
To me, like, if you please watch the documentary, because there's no way for us to...
The circling.
Yeah, because like they do it live. Like they show you her route live and she's literally just going around the block. She's like parking in different places. She's doing this actively, like tracking them for like over 2.5 hours. And my brain is just like, what the fuck? At any point in time, she could have like gone home. She could have gone to a friend's house. She could have gone and seen a movie. She could have gone and gotten drunk somewhere. But she was making the choice to come up with a plan. And honestly, it's like you can't even say that like she got angry and then went home and got the gun and came back.
No, she had it with her the whole time.
The whole time. So even before she went to where they were like near dinner or where they were swimming at that like Deep Eddy place or anything like that, she had it in her mind, I'm going to kill this bitch. Mm-hmm. Like that's what her thought process was the whole time. And you can't tell me she wasn't sitting out there for 45 minutes psyching up. I mean, we don't know how long she sat in the car. She could have literally gotten out, walked around the house because like, she could have been looking for a way to get in quietly, testing windows, testing doors. She may have gone and gotten rid of the bike right away. We don't know. All we know is that at 8:30, her car parks. At 9:15, we hear a scream and a gunshot. And it's like, it blows my mind because this woman literally had every opportunity to walk the fuck away.
Right. And even after watching Colin drop her off, she could have went straight home and confronted Colin.
Right.
Like she watched it happen. She saw he didn't go inside. He didn't, nothing happened. They weren't like making out. It's just, she had full intent the whole time to kill her.
It really seemed like the way that they talk about the way that Colin dropped her off, because he was on his motorcycle. So he drops her off. He probably took the helmet back because she was wearing one, probably put it away. Probably like, I don't even think he walked her to the door. I think he just kind of like waved at her and then she waved and went inside. It would be like you dropping me off someplace. Actually, there would probably be more affection if you dropped me off someplace.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of in my like mind, I'm like, this is crazy that this woman saw that and went, oh, they're fucking and I need to kill this woman.
Insane. So on November 16th, 2023, she was found guilty and given a 90-year sentence and a $10,000 fine. And she tried to appeal that earlier this year, and they said absolutely fucking not. So her sentencing still upholds today, just FYI. And we see some more footage, like Karen gives her impact statement. Absolutely watch that. Oh my gosh, so heartbreaking. And everyone is kind of like going through talking with producers some more, just how they're navigating their grief and things like that. And Colin, we get some more footage of him, and he just talks about how he regrets everything. He regrets basically all his life choices. He's like, I even regret cycling. Because of cycling, I met Caitlin, and because of all of that, then I met Mo, and, I should have never talked to her, and all of this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, gosh. Obviously, he blames himself. That was so heartbreaking.
That was so heartbreaking for me because it was watching this man who he talks about, he used to have this really big world and then he shrank it so he could control it because he was probably spiraling, because the amount of guilt that I thought about this, like, the amount of guilt he has to feel, because he's right. As much as he's like, if I had never met Caitlin, she would have never killed Mo. If I'd never talked to Mo, Caitlin would have never had anyone to target. But at the end of the day, you can't live your life going, if I step out into the world and interact with people, my partner could become violent and attack them. Like, you have to trust that. And honestly, whether it was a relationship with Colin or a relationship with someone else, this was an inevitability for her. She was going to get to a place where she was going to hurt someone, whether it was murder like she did or just hurt someone. But it was an inevitability because she told people what she would do.
Yep.
And she followed through.
She did. It's disgusting. And then as we are winding down, we catch up with Cash one more time. And I was surprised by this, but after her explaining it, it makes sense. She ended up moving back into the home where this took place because she is like, yes, this awful thing happened here. My friend was murdered here, but this was also where we spent time together, and this is where she had her last day. And there was so many beautiful moments in that. Like, there was a lot of joy there. And so she focuses on that. And she talks about how she shows us too, there's this like picture she found at a thrift store that has a bike going off the frame, basically, and it says, "With you all the way," and it has a little plant sprouting up. And I think that is like the most beautiful tribute, like kismet thing for her to find. And so, of course, she bought that and brought that home, and I love that for her.
Mm-hmm.
And her brother, he now has a cycling school in Vermont, and they all do a race every year for Mo in her memory. It's called the Ride for Mo. They've been doing it since 2023, and it's still going. And on top of that, they also have the Moriah Wilson Foundation, and they give back to people and women and stuff in the cycling community. And I think that's a beautiful way to honor her memory and everything like that. And her parent, the whole family, they are the ones that put that together and run that and everything. And it's so great. And like I said, I thought this documentary was just so tragic, but such a good tribute to Moriah as a person, not just Moriah as a victim.
Right.
It's such a good watch. I definitely recommend it. It's so sad that she lost her life so young. She was in her mid-20s and had this whole career just because of, no other way to say it, because some psycho decided her life was worth taking because of her jealousy and her own issues and her own bullshit. And I hope that Caitlin's bitch ass rots for the rest of time, and that her stay in the facility she is at is miserable as fuck.
I concur. It absolutely blows my mind. Be angry. Be mad that the guy that you love is like talking to another girl. Go get drunk with your best friend. Go write a burn book and don't do this kind of thing, because there's so many people that Mo touched in a beautiful way that like made it hurt them. And at the end of the day, Caitlin didn't get Colin back.
No.
Like, he's not her boyfriend. It's not like that was ever going to be the end game at that point.
No.
He had already made it perfectly clear. And if Caitlin was having issues with Colin, she should have talked to Colin.
Right.
This young girl who is just trying to peddle her way through life in a, meaningful way did not deserve to be gunned down in her friend's home because she went swimming and ate a burger with a dude. Like, that was it. That's all they did.
Right.
And and just so that everyone knows, this place that they went swimming is like a public pool area. Like there's a ton of people. It wasn't like they were in a creek off by themselves swimming in like a romantic way. No, they were like swimming in like a giant ass city pool.
Literally, yes. So definitely check it out, guys. It's a great, great documentary. Again, it's on Netflix, so definitely check it out. If you've watched it, we would love to hear your thoughts on it, just what you think about all of this and your opinions on Colin and Caitlin and all of that. We would love to hear what you guys think as well. But with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap things up for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you back here on Sunday for another Sunday Scaries. Bye, guys.
Toodles.